Welcome to the Purpose Focused Advisor, a podcast for financial planners, advisors, and RIAs looking to get the most out of yourself and your business. Join Rob Brown as he walks you through a journey that will allow you to take action in your business and your life so you can be the best that you can possibly be. Now here's your host, Rob.
Welcome back. Time once again for the Purpose Focused Advisor. Your host, Rob Brown here. I am excited today to have with us Mitchell Kraus, a very proud Dodgers fan today. His team just clinched the World Series a few days ago. But that's not why we're here to talk. My audience knows that I could talk baseball, especially Cleveland baseball, all day long. But I want to talk to Mitchell because he's in the fourth generation of his family in the financial services business. And so we'll talk a little bit about his dad and his grandfather and his great-grandfather in a bit. But most importantly, Mitchell's been at this himself since 1993. And in 2003, he started Capital Intelligence Associates with his father. So it's a father-son business, and they're all about helping their clients live their best lives. And Mitchell has some interesting perspectives on what that means and how to do it. So Mitchell, welcome to the podcast.
Rob, thank you so much for having me here. This is a pleasure.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So first, talk about what it's like to be in the fourth generation. And I know they aren't your previous generations didn't all do exactly what you do, but there's a lineage there that I'm sure really shapes how you do what you do today.
Well, yeah, it's in some ways awe-inspiring, in some ways humbling, and everywhere in between. My grandfather and my great-grandfather were purely in the life insurance business. They were managers starting in Cleveland, which, as I know where you're from, moved to Los Angeles 100 years ago or maybe more now. My father then got into the life insurance business, and in the 60s, he was one of the few innovators in financial planning. And he was working for a subsidiary of a life insurance company, and he was doing financial planning, and they kept on losing money in the subsidiary. And he kept on telling them, well, look how much more life insurance you're selling for these people you lose money on in the financial plan. And there was a little disagreement, and he went on his own way and started his own firm. And I actually started work in a recession and in the life insurance industry for a couple of months. And I realized, hey, I really like the power of life insurance, but I hate the fact that my job is to sell people life insurance whether they want it or not. And my father said, go talk to Joe. And I talked to Joe, and Joe taught me about financial planning, and Joe hired me and did that for about 10 years. And then after 10 years, my father was looking to retire, and my mother was looking to possibly kill him, for better or worse, but not for lunch. And I said, come back to work, and we'll start our own firm, and we'll create really independent advice that we can really work on the client's behalf.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I love that perspective. And sometimes it takes a while as an advisor to kind of get that perspective, because it can be so easy to having to focus on growing your business that even though you're working in your client's best interest, you're thinking about growing your business first because you've got to pay the bills.
Yeah, my first year in the business, all my friends were back east in college, and any friends of the family. My father had a client, and I went to the accountant to do my taxes, and he said, "You didn't make enough money to file a tax return. Go away. Come back next year." It took a while for me to build a business and really understand how to do that, but things change.
So I talk to a lot of advisors who say, I would love to have my son or my daughter join my practice. They want to try to be intentional about creating that opportunity. Was there any intentionality in your father in terms of encouraging you to do what you do and then wanting to be part of that with you, or that creation of your firm, was that by happenstance?
I would say it's more by happenstance. I have three brothers. They're not in the industry at all. Last thing I sort of wanted to do when I graduated from college, and all I knew is I wanted a position where I could, if I did well, I could succeed and make more money and move up what I thought at the time the corporate ladder. And it was a recession, so I ended up taking a management training position at a life insurance company. And it was just really one piece of luck after another. And before I knew it, a few years later, I was in business with my father, and we've been 50-50 partners for 20 plus years.
Yeah. Are you really 50-50 partners, or does Dad still dominate the conversation?
Well, financially, we're officially 50-50 partners. I would say, early on, he probably dominated the conversation. I've really brought my practice over the last 10, 15 years to a level that I see very few other planners at. So I think when I talk, he listens to me now because I really have been a real student. I have 8 industry designations, and I keep on learning and I keep on getting better. And I'm in study groups and love conferences. And it's just one of those things that while his knowledge is probably 60 years old, what I've learned in the last 10 years and what I've done, I think, to our practice has just really brought it to another level.
Yeah. I asked that question jokingly, but, in this, the world that we live in where it's not always families, but where partnerships are created, sometimes it's hard for the senior partner to give credibility, give credit to that new person coming on for the way that they're building business. And then sometimes the newer partner, the younger partner, wants to act like it's all about them, but there needs to be a blend. They need to meet in the middle because you're coming from two different places. And you as your father's son needed to respect the legacy that he has built and is building through that big career, but you don't have to say, well, I'm only going to do it his way, because you have developed your own skills, your own set of relationships. So it's a good balance.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of parent-child combinations that would probably work as well as we do. We've had our disagreements over the years, and early on, I caved into a lot of things that he suggested. And it's funny, we're moving in the next few months, and we're going through some old boxes and some old storages and some compliance things. And back in the day, we had to print out every single email that was ever sent to us. I was looking through those, and I was looking through some bad decisions I think he made. But I went along, and I think now there's some decisions I'm mostly making, and he might or might not disagree with it. But we respect each other enough that we can have a nice, honest conversation and do what's best at the end of the day for our clients. And no matter how much we disagree, we both agree that the clients come first. And there's so many times that we do the right thing, and as a financial advisor, you might not make any money, but it's the right thing, and we have to put our clients before ourselves, or else none of this works.
Yeah, and that's a great segue, because one of the big reasons that I wanted to have you on the podcast is I love the way that you think about clients and serving them. And you made the statement that life isn't all about bigger toys and faster cars. And sometimes that is something that you help your clients understand so that they actually put together a plan. They develop a plan that allows them to do things that are truly important to them, and not just more toys, more cars, more stuff. So talk a little bit about that, because I think that ties right into helping them live their best lives.
Yeah, there's so much more to wealth than people's financial wealth. And, while I traditionally called myself a financial planner over all these years, and my father sort of was one of the early financial planners, I like to consider myself more nowadays as a wealth manager. And, and those definitions mean different things to different people. But for me, it's helping them not only manage their financial wealth, but looking at their social wealth, their physical wealth, their health, all these things that are so important to them. I like to tell people that I'm not looking for clients, again, as you said, not trying to have more toys, and they tend to be the unhappiest. So they're not only not joyful to, in their lives, but they're not fun to work with. But I'm looking for clients who want to take care of the people that they really love and the causes that they care about, and are ones that are trying to make a difference in the world. And doing that really brings a different perspective to the planning. And yes, their financial wealth has to grow, but their financial wealth is a tool for those things, and not for, oh, I have 37 cars and look at my mansion, it's so much nicer than yours. As we all know, and anybody who studies any of this stuff realizes, it doesn't bring happiness.
Yeah, well, I thought everybody in LA had a mansion.
Well, Joe Walsh, I have a mansion, forget the price. No, there's a lot of people, a mansion, small house in LA probably starts at $1 million in most neighborhoods.
Yeah,
Condos in a lot of LA started at $1 million. So it's different, and we have clients all over the country,
sure,
mostly here in LA. And when clients leave LA, and again they sell their house here, they go, wow, I can buy this 7,000 square foot house in Tennessee or Texas or wherever they are. And I said, well, why do you want a 7,000 foot house? I don't know. Well, is that money, you're going to have rooms that you never walk into. And I've helped some clients over the years downsize, just saying, hey, look, you have these rooms you haven't looked into. And I have one of my favorite clients, and he had a great place, and it was 3,500 square foot, and he's been single, and he's always been single. And he sold it and bought a place for about the same price overlooking the ocean in Laguna Beach. And just so much happier. Much smaller place, right. Much smaller. But he's staring at the ocean instead of empty rooms.
But isn't that a perfect example of that kind of relationship that you want to build with your clients, that you can have that conversation that says, just because you sold your really expensive home in LA and can buy 3 times as much home somewhere else for the same or less money, doesn't mean that you need to have that, because it's just a thing. It's not necessarily the thing that's going to help you live the life that you want to live.
Well, I think that's so much the point of, and I love, as I said, I have 8 industry designations, and I love learning in the industry, but I love reading too. And I read books on happiness and well-being and health, because I want to be that coach to my clients on really helping them make decisions, not because they think they should, not because that's what their neighbors are doing, not that's what society tells them to do, but the things that are going to hopefully bring them joy later in life, and not look back at regret and say, hey, if I just didn't get that car and I went back to school, or I did whatever else that, help walk them through those things. And that's really, I think, helpful, great for them, and makes them better people, and just lets me sleep at night knowing that I'm really helping people, besides getting an extra, 0.2% on their investments or whatever that might be.
Right. That's important if you can help them do those things, but it's never going to be more important than helping that client that you're talking about get that ocean view and live in a way that really creates some joy, some happiness, and joy and happiness are in short supply, I think, in this world sometimes.
Oh, it is. We live in a world that is expanding and changing exponentially, but as humans, we're moving more linearly, and it's hard for people to figure out where they fit in this modern world, and to help them take a step back and see, that doom scrolling isn't making them happy, that huge house isn't making them happy. What are things they can do? Diet, exercise, more time with family, more time in their community, whatever these things are. And everybody's a little different, but help them understand which choices they made, and looking back at what did make them happy and what science says should make them happy and how they're unique individuals. So fulfilling.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that last part. They are unique individuals. And if you, as a financial professional, can help them understand their uniqueness and what drives them, they're going to live that more fulfilling life than if they're just trying to copycat somebody. The old fashioned, keeping up with the Joneses is not really what life is all about.
Yeah.
So let's segue a little bit here, because one of the things I also know that you've told me is important to you is philanthropy, is finding ways to help your clients share the wealth. I think your comment was that you may never be able to give $1 billion away yourself, but maybe through the work that you do and then teaching your clients about philanthropy, that collectively that $1 billion can be out there doing good things for other people.
Yeah, it's, I got into this industry really from going that brief couple of months in life insurance to the financial planning industry, because I really saw the opportunity to help people. That's always been important in my family. My earliest childhood memories are my parents taking my brothers and I in the back of the car on Thanksgiving and going to the mission downtown and feeding the homeless. And, it was my father's favorite holiday, and it was a time to be together as family, but he also saw it as a time to give back, and we would spend holidays giving back. And so I loved, early in this industry, my first 10 or so years, just really working with clients and helping them make a difference in their life. And while that's why I got started about a dozen years ago, our second son passed away based on problems of childbirth. And, it just kept in my mind that this is somebody who, there was obviously the grief and the sadness, and they're still there today. But what kept on stuck in my mind was Nicholas was never going to be able to give back and pass on that family value that's been with the Krauses for so long, and giving back to their community. And I've seen it sort of as an obligation on myself, not only to give back for myself, but to give back in his name in his name too, to do the work of two. And I realized that, I'm never going to give $1 billion to change the world, but I think I can help others do that. And, studies show that those who give their money away are happier, going back to our other points, that they tend to be wealthier too. It's not because they're wealthier they give away more money. Those who give away more money tend to also earn more money because they look for opportunities, they build more, they do more to be better people in this world. And looking at that, I became a chartered advisor in philanthropy right during this period of time, and I love helping my clients really effectively give their money away. I think so many people sort of give on road. Oh, I always give $500 to my local YMCA. I give $100 to my university. I write a check. I put it on my credit card and do the same thing. And there's so many opportunities for people to think about who they give to, which causes, and why they give. And the local YMCA might be the best cause, but maybe it isn't for you. And you've been giving into them for years. Why are you giving? How are you giving? And having those questions. And then writing a check for most people isn't the most effective way to give, or putting on their credit card. There are so many financial planning tools, charitable giving vehicles that can really give clients more bang for their buck. And I was talking to a client the other day, and I think my annual fee for them to manage their money is about $15,000. By using some planning techniques around charitable giving, I think we're saving them $12,000 a year on taxes on their charitable giving. I mean, I don't have to create much of a return to pay for myself.
Right.
No, hopefully I still create that return. But there's so many ways to give, so many things to give to. So it really, where I can do that, and I have my podcast on charitable giving, really just to inspire others. We when we work with a nonprofit and their endowment, we do it at half the price that we do for our normal clients, because we're trying to make the world a better place.
So, what's the name of your podcast? I want to make sure we put that into the show notes.
Yeah, it's Giving Intelligence. So my firm is Capital Intelligence Associates, and the podcast is Giving Intelligence.
Okay, we'll be sure to include that in the show notes. So, Mitchell, one thing that dawns on me is that these kinds of conversations, maybe they haven't always been, but they have become easy for you. They're natural for you. You are someone who loves digging deep and getting to know and advise, or getting to know a client, so you can understand what it is they may be after, whether it's in living their best life or in their giving. What advice would you give to an advisor who might feel like, gosh, those conversations sound difficult? How do I really get to the point where I know that I have my client on that right track to what they really want?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I sort of learned the hard way, and this is sort of tangential, is, I'd be doing a financial plan for a client, or I'd be doing a lot of work back in the day. And, I gather all their financial information, and I'd create a plan based on their financial information. And then all of a sudden, a few years later, they say, oh, I can't do that because of my, religious beliefs, or, oh, this doesn't take into account that I tithe 10% to my church, or to whatever other cause, or that, really, I can live a simple life and you can make me as much money as possible, but it's about my children. And I really spent a long time learning what are those things that never came up in those conversations that were so important. And I added question after question to my fact-finding process when I meet with a new client. And that list has gone from still the same basic 20 or 30 financial questions, but 40 or 50 other questions. And I tell my prospective clients, I said, look, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and they might not fit for you. But if I don't know them up front, I don't want them coming back one day and you telling me, oh, I never knew this. And knowing that you have a special needs child, knowing that there's causes you care about, knowing that you donate your time or you donate your money. You can't really create a good financial plan unless you know these things, unless you really ask the deep questions up front and you keep on asking them to your clients, because, you get taught in financial planning school or whatever, studying for the CFP or whatever, here's clients' goals. At the end of the day, most of the time it ends in retirement or estate planning. And, they want to buy a house and they want to send their kids to college. But a lot of those other things don't come up. And the more you ask, the more you find out really what makes your clients tick. And, I'm here in Southern California. I'm a nice, live by the beach. I'm, environmentally very progressive. And there's certain socially responsible investments I will not have. I keep my portfolio. And I loved some of these socially responsible and green investments my whole career. And I never, ever asked my clients. I never wanted to offend them. And then I started asking about 15 years ago. And I said, is there any investment you do or don't want because of your values, whether they're religious or moral or whatever it is? Are there certain industries that you feel are important to you or you want to avoid in your portfolio? And I can't tell you how many clients say, thank you for asking me that. Nobody has ever asked, I've worked with 5 financial planners over my life, and nobody's ever asked me that. And now that you mentioned it, and I think it's the same with philanthropy. I think it's really understanding their family and their children. I started working, I got, Nicholas, if he survived, was going to be special needs. And he didn't, unfortunately, but, I started learning about that community a lot, and I got my special needs designation because, in honor of him too. But asking clients those questions about, tell me about your kids. Are they all going to be working? Are they all going to make equal money? Do you think when they're young? There's odds are you have lots of clients with alcoholic children or drug addiction or whatever it is as a financial advisor if you do this long enough. And working on estate planning and not knowing that information is just throwing fuel on the fire. You're not helping your clients out. So it's tough to ask those first time, but trust me, the more you ask, the more comfortable you are, and the more time you'll hear from clients. Thank you for asking. This is important. It's hard for me to bring up, and I'm glad you did.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's some great takeaways there. But before I kind of hone in on a couple of things that I want to emphasize, I also want to thank you for talking about your son, Nicholas. I know that must still hurt to this day, his loss. And I am so grateful that you are willing to talk about and share about it, because that's something else that we can teach other people to do, is to not hide from those tragedies, but to learn from them and make the most out of them. So thank you for saying that. But I also want to echo something that you said that I think is a real big takeaway for advisors who are listening to this podcast. And it's about asking questions, and it's from two sides. You talked about your your initial questionnaire, your profiling questionnaire, going from 20 or 30 questions that are mostly financial to having 40 or 50 other questions. And the thing that impressed me most about that is it sounds like you've actually documented those questions. And I'm sure that you don't ask, what could be a total of 80 questions in an initial meeting with a client, but the fact that you've documented it and you're beginning to ask them early in the relationship, your relationships start out stronger and you're making better plans from the get-go than if you didn't ask those questions. And then that inventory of questions also becomes good, solid fodder for future conversations as you're bringing clients in for updates and reviews. And so my coaching tip to the advisors who are listening to this is, don't just get a good answer to a question that you asked by accident and not take advantage of it. Write it down, use it for later, save it, have your own set of 50 questions that you ask, because it'll make your business better for your clients and for you. And I think that's a great learning tool.
I actually laminated all the questions. I printed, I've done this so long, for a lot of years, I would just do it, just do it with a pen and paper and, line paper. And I would just write down notes and get copies of statements. And it was easy, but then I'd forget questions. And so I finally got, in one of my study groups, I said, you have to create all those questions and you have to laminate it. So that way, it's official and it's there and it's sort of permanent, and not so permanent that when I think of another question or one sort of times change, take one off, that I can't print it again and spend $1.50 at Kinko's or whatever it's, FedEx office or whatever it is now, and reprint it.
But I really like that idea, because it's a way to memorialize the importance of that for you as a probably a very central tool in developing these deep relationships that you have with your clients. And so it makes it very intentional. And I'm all about, doing things with purpose and with intention, because those things that you are able to do in a repeatable way will make your business stronger and your relationship to your client stronger.
Yeah. I think during the pandemic, when people had tons of time on their hands, and a lot of people were looking to change their advisors, and they would interview, nowadays most people interview one or two and they seem happy, maybe three. And during the pandemic, people would, they would tell me, oh yeah, I'm interviewing 7 people. I'm like, great. And we go through the fact-finding process, and they would pick me. And I said, well, I know you were interviewing 6 other people. Why'd you pick me? And they said, well, you asked better questions. You know me better.
Yeah.
you're going to help me make better decisions because you understand me better than just a bunch of numbers.
Yeah. And you had which led you to having better conversations with them that showed that you cared. I love that. I'm glad we got to that. So let me ask you one last question before we begin to land the plane. What challenges are you facing right now in your business? Is there anything that you're thinking about that maybe you want to work through to kind of continue to grow and get to that next level of success?
Yeah, I think there's two challenges, and one, you're talking about landing that plane. That runway is right there. My least favorite thing about what I do is following up with a meeting, taking all those notes, putting them into our CRM, and then creating the follow-up items. And I know there's a lot of technology. I kept on saying, I've said for years, decades probably, that if I won the lottery, I would come to work the next day. I love what I do. But I'd hire somebody to sit next to me full time and just take notes for me. And with AI, I know there's a lot of solutions out there, and we're looking at them. And depending on who you clear through, there's some compliance issues and things like that. But that solution's right around the corner. So I'm really excited about that because that's just going to free up so much mental energy. But on the same side, it's that capacity issue. I'm being referred more clients than are good fits, and or than I can take on. So I'm looking for ones that are good fits, based on again, working with people they love, causes they care about, all that stuff, and trying to hire a junior who can take on some of those clients that I don't have the time for. I love bringing on new clients. I love the challenges of a new client, but there's only so many I can bring on. And I refer them to other advisors right now. And I'd love to keep those in-house. And, I refer them to people I trust greatly. But these are people who are referred to me. I'd love to keep a better eye on them. And if I had a junior in my office who I could peek over their notes every once in a while, I would know that the people who were referred to me that were trusted, somebody gave my name out of trust, were really being taken care of throughout the process.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's something that I work with clients on a regular basis right now because so many of the advisors that I work are having a lot of success, but they're running into capacity problems. And so finding the way to build that team so that the advisor can, and this also probably ties to your AI, your note-taking challenge is so that you can spend your time doing what you do best, so your business could begin to run without you, so to speak. That becomes really important for advisors who have been at it as long as you've been at it and have the type of practice that you've built.
Yeah, I've done this for 32 years now, and I have every intention of doing it for another 32. I get out of bed loving what I do. I love taking good vacations, but on vacations I work, a little bit each day, just make sure my clients sleep well at night. And if they're sleeping well at night, I really enjoy my vacation and sleep well too. It's, my father's still working. He's turning 85 in 10 days.
Wow.
And he's still coming to work every day. He takes occasional Friday off to go to the symphony or something like that. But he loves it too. And we just both love working with our clients.
Yeah. No, that passion that you have for the industry and for your clients is obvious. And it's not just all of those designations that can't possibly fit on a normal sized business card.
No, I haven't even figured out how to print my new designation or put the new designation on the card. And I that's a graphic designer's problem, not mine, but it's pretty small as it is.
Right. Well, obviously, continuous learning must be a big motivator for you too, because you don't work on all of those designations if you don't want to learn it.
I mean, the industry, in some ways, is the same industry it was 30 years ago, but in other ways, it's totally changed. And there's so much knowledge out there. And I have 8 designations, and I have an Ivy League degree, and I'm 4th generation in the business, and we can talk about all the things that I've done. And I know how little I actually know. And to keep on learning, keep on getting better. And really what scares me and keeps me up at night is the the things I don't know that I don't know.
Right.
That there's I have a pretty good grasp on a lot of things. If I don't know them, there's an expert, but every once in a while something pops up that I have, and that's having a team around me, being in study groups, having some great accountants and attorneys and other professionals that I can call in an instant and really say, hey, somebody told me about this type of trust. I can look it up on the internet, but tell me where you think it may or may not work.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. So we're out of time. Mitchell, it has been awesome to have you on here. And, I think that Ivy League degree, 8 designations aside, the fact that you just really love your clients and want the best for them is the recipe that's really made you successful. And I want to congratulate you for that, because it just oozes out of your pores. If that sounds kind of weird, but it's real. It's real.
Well, thank you, Rob. Yeah, I love what I do, and other advisors listening to this podcast, I'm sure some of them have passion and just don't know where to take it. And, if I could help some of them build a better practice, I don't think there's, I'm a member of study groups. I don't think there's competition out there. I just want to raise that tide for all the boats. And, the more of us doing good work for our clients, the better off, we are as individuals, the clients are, the country and the world are. Yeah. And, let's make this world a better place.
Yeah. And there's no reason to hold back on making the world a better place. Just do that all out every day. Mitchell, thanks for being on the podcast. To our audience, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next week. And remember, we're always rooting for your success.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Purpose Focused Advisor. If you want to learn more, head over to our website, truestfancoaching.com. There you'll learn all about becoming a purpose-focused advisor. You'll also find today's show notes and links to the other gifts and resources we talked about during the episode. Again, thanks for listening, and remember, we're rooting for your success.